One day, this kid, he's 12, he's hanging out with his older cousin. An older cousin is like, hey, come here, let me tell you about my time in the war. It's about some of the things he did back in the Vietnam War. About people he had unalived and women he had done horrible things to. Remove some Polaroid photos to show younger cousin. Little cousin, he isn't grossed out. Actually, he's fascinated. And about a year later, and the younger cousin, his name's Ricardo, and the older cousin, his name's Mike. And so Ricardo and Mike, they're hanging out at Mike's place, and Mike, he suddenly gets into an argument with his wife, and he pew-pew, and he ends up unaliving her right there in front of little Ricardo. Grossed out. He's fascinated because shortly after that, Ricardo starts getting into drugs, particularly the kind that make you hallucinate. And he starts committing petty crimes and shoplifting all the time to his religion. And eventually, he just says fuck it and he drops out of high school. A few years later, Ricardo's 17 and he gets a job at a local Holiday Inn. Starts sneaking into the guests' rooms while they're asleep, and he'll steal their valuables. And he starts trying to SA some of the guests. And he eventually gets caught and bam, they fire him. 5 years later, Ricardo is 22, and he moves from Texas to San Francisco to get a fresh start. He spends most of his time just and he never brushes his teeth, so they inevitably start to rot. I'm gonna start murdering people. Sounds like fun. And then one day, while he's out in the neighborhood, Ricardo spots a girl. And she's 9, and the girl has lost a dollar bill, and she's out looking for it. I know where your dollar bill is. I can show you. Follow me. And so she follows him into the basement of the hotel where he's living. And there, he does horrible things to her, and he eventually unalives her. Later, he moves to Los Angeles. And there, he gets a room in a hotel on Skid Row, and he starts doing a lot more drugs. And one night, he starts stalking this 79-year-old woman who lives in the suburbs. And he breaks into her house, and then he SAs her, and he unalives her with a knife. Then, later, he strikes again. One night, he hides in this woman's garage. And when she finally does, he suddenly steps out, and he pulls out a pew-pew, and bang, he unalives her. And he sees the woman's roommate, and bang, he unalives her too. Then, about an hour later, he's at a local park, and he spots a random woman sitting in her car. And he suddenly grabs her, and he drags her out of it, and then he pulls out his pew-pew, and he unalives her as well. 10 days later, Ricardo breaks into a house at night, and he shoots a man while he's sleeping. And then the man's wife wakes up. Ricardo shoots her too, and then he unalives her with a knife. Them in a jewelry box to take with him as a souvenir. And so Ricardo just continues on this streak of murder and break into their home at night, execute them, and then he'll point. Police are looking at this string of attacks, and they're starting to think, you know, there might be a serial killer on the loose here. As of now, they don't have much. They have some descriptions of him, they have some sort of fingerprints, and they have some shoe prints they found at some of the print is unique. There had only been one pair of that brand of sneakers sold in Los Angeles in his size. While the news media is reporting on all of this. And so stories about his string of murders are blowing up all over him as the Night Stalker. With all this news coverage, Ricardo is starting to feel the heat. He leaves Los Angeles and he moves all the way back to San Francisco. And there, in San Francisco, he breaks into a couple's home and he unalives them and he draws another religious symbol on the wall. Oh shit. Is the Night Stalker now in San Francisco? Dianne Feinstein, she gets on TV and she holds a press conference. And she reveals that the police have identified the Night Stalker's shoes. And she holds up a police scan the world roughly what Ricardo looks like. TV. And he's like, oh snap, they're onto me. And he throws his shoes over into the woods. Days later, he moves back to the Los Angeles area. And then one night, Ricardo drives a little bit south of that area and he tries to break into another family's home. And later, he breaks into a different couple's home. And then he shoots the husband and essays the wife, tell them the Night Stalker was here. So then later, when that woman talks to police, she's able to give them a description of Ricardo. He had stolen with one of his whole ass fingerprints in it. And from that fingerprint, police are finally able to use new technology. As Ricardo had been arrested in the past for auto theft, police know the Night Stalker is Ricardo. And they now have not just a crude police sketch of the Night Stalker, 2 days later at a convenience store. Probably buying junk food or whatever, when people start to recognize him. Hey, isn't that guy, the Night Stalker? So Ricardo panics and he runs out of the store and he sees a car and he immediately tries to steal it. And during all this commotion, more people recognize him. Yeah, I think that is the Night Stalker. And some of the bystanders grab him and they pull him out of the car. Then he runs across the street and he tries to steal another woman's car keys. And that woman's husband retaliates and hits Ricardo over the head with a whole ass fence post. Ricardo's wounded and he's running away. And 10 citizens are chasing him down. And they finally catch him and they hold him down. They arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And they charge his stank ass with 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 essays, and 14 burglary. Oh, fans start writing him and like visiting him in prison and get married. So this on death row somehow finds love and gets married.